So, how do you actually build a truly meaningful life in a world that seems totally designed to distract you? Well, that's what we're digging into today. We are going to break down the personal operating system of one of history's most effective people, Benjamin Franklin.
I mean, really think about that for a second. With all the notifications, the endless scroll, the constant demands on our attention, it is so easy to feel busy, right? But not necessarily productive or, fulfilled. How do you cut through all that noise and actually make a real impact?
Well, it turns out this is not a new problem at all. Almost 300 years ago, Benjamin Franklin, founding father, inventor, writer, the whole deal, he got completely obsessed with this exact question. And he didn't just think about it, he developed a system to master his life.
And that is the absolute key word here, system. His incredible impact wasn't some random stroke of genius or just a happy accident of history. Nope. It was the product of a deliberate, repeatable framework he built for his own personal and public contribution.
This system wasn't just like a random list of good habits. It was a completely integrated framework, and it was built on 3 really powerful interconnected pillars. So let's break them down, because this is how we can apply his wisdom to our own lives.
All right, here's our roadmap. We're going to start with his 3 core pillars: mastering yourself, then mastering your day, and finally, mastering your world. And then we'll pull it all together into a practical toolkit that you can start using right away.
First up, Pillar 1, master yourself. See, Franklin believed that before you could ever hope to change the world around you, you had to build a rock-solid internal foundation. For him, all external usefulness had to begin with your internal character.
And to do this, he didn't just hope to be a better person. He engineered it. He actually identified 13 core virtues that he wanted to live by, and then he built a whole system to practice them, one by one.
Now, for Franklin, the word virtue wasn't some fancy, abstract idea. It was a practical, hands-on project. He literally created a journal to track his progress every single day on each virtue, and he'd focus on just one per week. The goal was never to be perfect. It was all about making consistent, steady progress.
And you know what fueled this whole drive for self-improvement? A massive, voracious curiosity. Franklin was a relentless, lifelong learner who was pretty much self-taught. He just understood that to grow your character, you had to be constantly growing your mind.
Okay, so you've got this strong internal foundation in place. Now what? Well, that brings us to Pillar 2, master your day. Franklin knew that having a strong character was kind of useless if it didn't translate into actual daily action. And for him, that all came down to mastering his time.
This quote just perfectly captures his whole mindset. And listen to the verbs he's using. Lose no time, be always employed, cut off. This wasn't a passive thing for him. It was an active, daily fight to prioritize what was useful and just get rid of everything else. He actually structured his entire day around this philosophy, his famous daily schedule. Well, it can really be broken down into 3 key parts. He had a morning ritual to set his intention for the day. Then he had these focused blocks of time for work and study. And he always finished with an evening reflection to see how he did.
This was the powerful question he asked himself every single morning. It wasn't about what's on my to-do list, it was about his purpose, his contribution. This one single question framed his entire day around the idea of being useful.
And what's so amazing is how perfectly his tools from the 1700s map onto our world today. I mean, his virtue journal, that's basically just an analog habit tracker app. His Junto Club, that was the original mastermind group. And all his books and letters, that's our podcasts and online courses. The tech changes, but the core ideas of self-improvement and connection, they're exactly the same.
All right, this brings us to the final piece of the system, and this is where it all comes together. Pillar 3, master your world. Franklin took all that internal discipline in his daily habits, and he scaled them outward to create a massive, lasting impact on his community.
This is really where his personal system created public good. Franklin wasn't just a guy with good ideas, he was a builder. He founded the first public lending library, organized volunteer fire departments, established universities. I mean, these are institutions that are still shaping our world today.
So, how in the world did he do all this? Well, his philosophy was actually pretty simple. Start where you are. He just looked around his community in Philadelphia, saw problems that needed solving, and then he applied his innovative mind to creating practical solutions. Everything from bifocals in the lightning rod to civic institutions. He didn't wait for permission, he just started building. And a key part of his method was collaboration. He didn't try to do it all alone. He founded the Junto, which he called a club for mutual improvement, where he and other ambitious people could meet up, debate ideas, share what they were learning, and brainstorm ways to make their city better. He just knew that collective intelligence was way more powerful than a lone genius.
Okay, so we have now broken down his entire three-pillar system. Now let's distill all of that down into a simple, modern toolkit that you can use to start building your own useful life.
It really just comes down to these three actions. First, define your own personal virtues. What are the values that are going to guide you? Second, design your day around intention and reflection, just like he did. And third, just look around and find one small local problem that you can help solve. That is the starting point.
And as you get started on this, please remember this key insight. Franklin was not perfect, not even close. His own journals are full of his failures and frustrations. But his system was never about achieving perfection. It was about committing to consistent, daily effort and just believing in slow, incremental progress. Just as he started every single morning with that guiding question, he ended every evening with one too. This was his final check-in, his own personal yardstick for a day well spent. It brought everything right back to that core idea of usefulness.
So, I'll leave you with his framework. As you go about your day, try asking yourself his questions. What good have I done today? And maybe even more importantly, what good will I do tomorrow? What's your answer?